Donald Jeffries. Donald Jeffries. Author of Hidden History and Survival of the Richest. Host of The Donald Jeffries Show. Billy Ray Valentine. Billy Ray Valentine. Host of the Infinite Fringe podcast. Researcher, truth seeker from the Bronx, New York. Tony Arterburn. Tony Arterburn. Radio host, combat veteran, precious metals analyst, and alt historian. Together, they take on the headlines of the week, decode the disinformation, and plow through the mainstream propaganda. Unauthorized, unscripted, and unintimidated. This is America Unplugged.
What's going on, everybody? Happy New Year to everyone that's tuning in and to everyone that will hear our voices on the podcast. It's America Unplugged, the War on Reality report. It's getting really real for War on Reality. Tony Arterburn is back, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, Tony?
I'm back.
People, welcome back to your show. What's up, buddy?
It's good to see you and Don and Guard. I'd like to congratulate President Bush on a successful regime change. And I'd like to congratulations to the American people.
Yes.
This is a win for all of us.
We got the legendary Don Jeffries. What's going on?
I'm coming to you live from the new Wise Wolf Somalian daycare.
Jesus Christ. What's up, Don Jeffries? How are you? What's going on?
Good. Yeah. I don't think there'll be a whole lot of disagreement today on the show. So we all may look like we have Trump derangement syndrome after this, but.
Well, we've been agreeing way more than disagreeing lately, Don. You know, you and I.
Well, it's because Trump is going down this absurd dark path where he's he's trying to be Darth Vader or something. I don't know what the hell he's doing. It's ridiculous.
All right, and of course, Guard Goldsmith is here, but he's only here for about 15, 30 minutes because he just received a phone call that he needs to go down to Venezuela and become the new leader over there.
Exactly. I'm sorry, guys. I got to take this call. I got to go. Evidently, they want a real, honest-to-goodness, voted-in elected guy there, and I'm their man. So there you go. I was going to grad school with a couple of their other choices here in the United States, but evidently I won the Cracker Jack Prize for peace. So I'm all in favor of regime change because that's very peaceful.
Right. Well, 100%. And I wouldn't, hey, if anything good is going to come out of this, it's Guard doing Liberty Conspiracy from Venezuela next week. All right, man. What are we doing? I brought Guard on because of the obvious. I asked him to come on. He's been covering this heavy on his show, what's been going on with Venezuela for the last, 4 or 5 months. It's been a long time, but I mean, the last 4 or 5 months, Trump's been killing people, along with Hegseth, in the high seas, murder in the high seas. And they've been amassing a large fleet of warships and planes and all types of stuff outside of Venezuela. And we were waiting for it. And when the Epstein stuff started blowing up, of course, I was like, they're going to kill Maduro. It's only a matter of time. But they've decided to go in, and overnight they bombed Caracas, and they went in and took Maduro and his wife, apparently. They're on their way to New York City. They're coming here. And they're going to be charged, Pam Bondi said, with all the wrath of American power is what's going to happen there. And of course, it's to stop the drugs from coming into this country because you know how they do. The most transparent administration in the history of the world. Really wants to do away with the drugs here in this country. So that's why they're doing it. No other reason, nothing else to see here. Tony Arterburn, the wisest of all the wolves. Say what's up. Tell me what's going on.
Well, I love it. We're going to use that full wrath of the Justice Department not on Venezuela, but not on people who traffic children with Epstein or any of the deep state or the people that defrauded the American people over the past many decades and bring this country to the brink of bankruptcy. So that's congratulations. Again, another round of applause for President Bush. It's magnificent.
Man, you ain't kidding, man. It's crazy the way this is going down, and it's going to be interesting to see who they put in power, right? And Trump is invoked. I forget what name Trump gave it, but it's the Monroe Doctrine repackaged for Donald Trump.
This has nothing. The Monroe Doctrine. How would you even cite that? I mean, Don, does that even make sense to you that this is the Monroe Doctrine of President Monroe, not Maryland? But it was the Monroe Doctrine was set up to keep foreign powers from colonizing in our hemisphere.
Right, to protect South America.
To protect South America. This is intervention. This is some Smedley Butler stuff, like what he talked about. He's like, I didn't go, to South America to bring, democracy. I went there to prop up the United Fruit Company.
But the thing about the Monroe Doctrine is the minute that they instituted some rationale for going into another country, because the United States, whoever is in office, claims that they're a threat to the United States, that opened Pandora's box right there. The Monroe Doctrine was corrupt from the start. It was an assumption that the United States government could determine for other governments what was right or wrong based on the politicians in Washington claiming that it was right or wrong. It was all up to them. And it's the same thing the way they describe national security for us. It's the same thing. It's all the same argument. Now, I heard that they freed the Honduran president in order to have him don a cape and use super drug-fueled powers because Donald Trump hates drug dealers. So they sent Hernandez into Venezuela, and he's actually the one who captured Maduro to stop the drug.
Man, let me tell you.
It's the Monroe drug dealer doctrine, perhaps. I don't know.
Good. That's an update.
You're right.
I like that.
And to another one of your points, that's exactly what they said. They were like, we can change any government that is not acting appropriately. I'm paraphrasing, but that's more or less what was said about this interventionist strategy that they are pushing forward, right? We can do whatever we want here. And it seems like I don't understand, right? The pullback from the world stage and still claiming America first, but you're giving up spheres of influence, it would seem, to Russia and China, because you're like, hands off over there, do whatever you guys want. But over here, we got this, so it's kind of like divvying up the world when you don't have to. I don't understand the propping. I don't think Russia is on the level of the United States. Economically, China might get there sooner than later, but as far as the military goes, I don't think they're on par with the United States either. So I don't know why all of this is happening.
Well, you just have to go back 1 second. I want you to go, Guard, because I want to throw this out there. The Reagan doctrine in the 1980s was one of leaning on the Saudis to put a lot more crude oil into the marketplace to collapse the price of crude. And that was one of the ways they bankrupted the Soviet Union. If you look at this big picture, and this is an IQ test, by the way, if you're looking at Breitbart and you think that, this is about cartels, you probably need to seek professional help. This is not, you're not, I don't know how you're functioning as an adult, but do you think this has anything to do with cartels? It's about oil. And if you look at the Wolfowitz memorandum in 1992, when you see like any sort of rival power coming up in the world, whether it's Russia or China, we're supposed to put that down by any means. And this is Wolfowitz doctrine. This is embraced by the neocons. So energy and housing, being able to control the flow of energy, especially oil. And look at Venezuela, I believe, has like the largest deposits, at least in this hemisphere.
Oh, definitely here, right? Definitely on this.
It might be the world.
Right.
So this is one of the ways, this is fourth dimensional warfare. It's not like anything you've seen before. This is a different play. But it harkens back, I think, in a big way to what the Reagan doctrine was in the 1980s.
All right, Guard, what's up?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I called it up on my screen. There's a guy I follow, Ben Norton. I don't know if you guys follow him. It's Benjamin Norton on X. And Ben was one of the first guys who sort of tipped me off to, first I heard Max Blumenthal or somebody talking about the ZAs in Honduras. These were these so-called free trade zones that were created under Hernandez. and they have since stopped them. They actually had an amendment to their constitution because essentially the government was taking land or threatening to take land through eminent domain in Honduras to give it to giant corporations like Palantir. And people were claiming, especially a lot of the GOPers were claiming, that it was this way to have a free market and they were going to have low taxes, but it wasn't. It was basically a fascist way to help out corporations that would then help the politicians stay in power in Honduras. This guy, Hernandez, is arrested. He's brought to the United States. He's sentenced to 40 years in prison or whatever. Trump releases him just prior to the elections. And I'm like, well, what are they doing in Honduras? What's going on in Mexico? What's going on? They started to threaten stuff with Ecuador. And what's he doing with Venezuela? What's going on? And so Ben Norton brought up, he said, during the first Trump administration, a lot of Chinese companies went into Central and South America to avoid the Trump tariffs so that they would produce in areas and release these things from areas that they basically were trying to stay ahead of Trump on the tariffs. And various companies did that too. They would move to Singapore rather than being in China and stuff like that. So he says what it looks like Trump is trying to do in Central and South America is push back a lot of the Chinese influence in those areas and replace it with American interests and American American corporation interests. And then I started to look into the GOP ties to that Honduran money. And if you look at Haley Barbour, former governor of, I can't remember what
Mississippi.
That's it. Yeah. And then Rick Scott, former governor of Florida, his two chiefs of staff, they both separately formed these big lobbying firms for the GOP. And they got totaled together, they probably got $1.2 million between them to lobby Washington on behalf of Honduras and the ZAs and all this stuff. So it looks to me like this is oil, and it also has a larger geostrategic platform to deal with trying to knock out Cuba, because Cuba's very reliant on Venezuelan oil, and also to try to effectuate change, to use the various countries where they can gain influence as hopping grounds to try to get into these other countries and push back the Chinese. That's Ben Norton was really good on this stuff. I got to look up more about it, what he says, but it seems to me that that's what they're doing. And all of it is just ridiculously corrupt, because none of it should have anything to do with the United States. Thomas Massey, was very explicit. He said, look, if you're going to do this sort of thing, you got to declare war. It's nation state against nation state. You're taking out a leader and you're not declaring war,
Right. A lot of the, you mentioned, trying to push back China, right. From the influence they have in Central America and South America. And, and ironically, that grew under Trump's first term.
Right. Yeah.
He created a vacuum with some of his policies, and China went in there and filled that. So it's like, fighting against what you already did. You're responsible for this shit. It's like, it's incredible to me what's going on with all of that. But they went into Venezuela, right? And I'm gonna send it to Don in a second. But now they're also, and this could be Trump diarrhea of the mouth again. But he kind of alluded to Mexico. And that's been rumored and it's been discussed here in the alt media. Thank you, babe. And in other some mainstream sources talking about the possibility of boots on the ground inside Mexico. So that's not off the table either. Talking about drugs and stuff like that's probably has very little to do with any of that. But yeah, they're taking oil. Trump has been vocal and open about it in the past. So anybody that believes that it's about the cartels is not even listening to Trump. Trump said like a year ago, he's like, yeah, we want that oil. And a couple of weeks ago, he was like, yeah, that's our oil. You owe that to us. It belongs to us. So clearly that's why they're going in there. Anyway, Don, what's up?
Tony mentioned the Reagan administration, and this is an exact parallel, almost the exact same situation we saw in, I think it was 84, sometime in the 80s with Ferdinand Marcos in the Philippines, where now there wasn't they didn't even give an excuse of drugs. They just didn't like the results of an election. Marcos won an election with Jimmy Carter and all the international observers there. They couldn't find any shenanigans, but they didn't want him in there, even though he had been a U.S. puppet supposedly for all that time. Imelda Marcos had too many shoes, all the stuff that supposedly in the public eye. They just went and kidnapped him the exact same way. They took out Marcos and his wife and flew him off. I forget where they flew him somewhere. I talked about it in Hidden History, but very similar. Now, they didn't try them. This is a step beyond that, but the president was in, and there wasn't a whole lot of complaint. I don't remember the left. I was still pretty much a leftist then. I don't remember the left complaining much about that at all. And it'd be interesting to see how much of the left complains about this. They may do it as an overall complaint, just whatever Trump does, they're going to post. But they're not going to focus on this because this is regime change has been reality forever. And, Peter Seacosh, good to see him in the chat. And he certainly found a lot of stuff when he was helping me research American Memory Hall about, we were involved in these countries in the Woodrow Wilson administration. It just wasn't talked about. We went to Mexico 8 times when Wilson was president. So we've set the president, and Smedley Butler tried to write about it. And people think he's a hero, but they didn't learn much from what he was saying. So this is horrible stuff. And the idea that we can try them, I don't believe we've actually tried any of these. We didn't try to, put Noriega on trial or certainly not Marcos. What are we going to try them for? This is again another horrible precedent. What would we do with somebody if somebody ever got powerful enough to do it to us? If China or Russia came in and just kidnapped Donald Trump or some other American leader and put them on trial for what? What can they possibly be? Can somebody in Venezuela possibly be guilty of? They can try to attribute the drug trade to it, but they can go back to what Gary Webb talked about: the CIA, bringing crack cocaine into the inner cities before they killed him. So we have nothing against drugs because we pretty much created the cocaine epidemic, as Gary Webb found before they killed him. So this is just nonsense, and the idea, and I'm hearing people supporting it, and that's what gets me. This is amazing that people, it's great, and I always say when I look at what we're doing foreign policy wise, it all revolves around Israel. We don't do anything that Israel doesn't want. So you have to look at, well, what connection does Israel have to Venezuela? Well, I have an Iranian dentist. We go there, we talk about a lot of things. He loves talking to me. Yeah. And so naturally, of course, we spend a lot of time talking about Israel. And he told me that this guy Maduro is buddy with Iran, behind the scenes, that they're very close. And so it makes sense. It makes sense. I don't think this is necessarily about oil. I think this is, unless it's in Israel's interest. Our foreign policy is completely devoted to whatever Israel wants. If Trump is doing this, it's because, look, he just met with Netanyahu the other day. Remember, they walked along arm in arm, and whenever he meets with the guy, bomb Iran or they arrest the president of Venezuela and his wife. This is just horrible stuff. And the idea that, we talked a little bit about Trump before this, and he's, obviously, I'm not going to, you're not going to get me defending Trump at this point, but he's taken such a dark turn, and what he's doing is so different than what he did in the first term, where he just didn't do anything. He just tweeted and said he was going to do good things mostly and never did them. He's not even really saying he's going to do anything good anymore. He just, even the stuff that I think he needs to do too, like I think he needs to deport people. I think he needs to, even that is not being done in a way that people can support it. It's heavy-handed, it's arbitrary, and it looks bad. He's militarized ICE officers like the rest of the cops. And so I don't see how anybody can defend him at all now. But the idea, and we talked a little bit about, declaring war. Congress hasn't declared war since World War II. So I'm glad Thomas Massey's outraged about it. But again, they're not going to do it now. They haven't. How many foreign interventions have we staged since World War II? And this is consistent with a pattern going back again to our friends in Iran when they overthrew Mossadegh back in the early 1950s. They've been doing this forever. And so this is no difference. It's a sad day, but I hope it doesn't escalate into more of that. Maybe we're going to get lucky and he won't send ground troops or anything in there. And the idea is they'll just take Maduro out. And what are they going to try him for? This is Nuremberg Orwellian nonsense. What are they going to put him on trial for? Crimes against humanity, war crimes? Again, when we're guilty of what we've done, but the idea that, Peter says Maduro is vocally critical of Netanyahu. Yeah, that's something. Man, Ryan Dennis, he knows what's going on. He told me these guys are buddy, and It makes sense. And they did Venezuela since Chavez. I mean, my friend Cindy Sheehan's buddy. I mean, she told me so many good things about that guy, the stuff he was doing that was really great. And the same thing with what's his name? In Africa, the guy we came, we saw, we died. That was doing great things with Gaddafi. Was doing who they hated so much they changed the spelling of the guy's name. I think I'm the only one that noticed that. He used to be with a Q, and now it's with a G. I don't know, but they hated this guy. He was helping people out. He was a hero in Africa. They tend to go after people like that. So I'm guessing this Maduro is a really good guy for them to do something like this. I don't know, because I know Chavez was completely misrepresented. I don't know why they care that much about Venezuela, except maybe Chavez was hostile to Israel too. But this is a sad day. Harp says Gaddafi. It used to be spelled Q A F D A F F I or whatever. So I'm just telling you. Look, although they probably, it's hard to find those examples, but I remember reading it many times. But again,
well, now he's QAnon. So there you go.
Yeah.
Boy, he's GAnon. Good. I don't know what that is, but the idea is you can't. And the idea that this is, who in the MAGA movement voted for this? This is the exact opposite of what Trump 1.0 talked about. He at least would counter. He did bomb Syria a couple of times, but he was criticized for meeting with Putin and trying to be diplomatic and trying to, in South Korea, trying to meet with Kim and be diplomatic there. He at least would attempt that, and he would say, hey, we shouldn't have war. We don't necessarily, he would counter, but he doesn't do that at all now. Everything is, we're going to bomb the hell out of them. We're going to do this. It's like, this is, I don't know. I just don't, it's like the president's acting like a Southern Rock kick-ass leader or something. It's just, I don't know. It's disgraceful, but what are you going to do? We'll see what the Democrats do. I'm sure see if they can try to impeach him over this.
I mean, they should try to impeach him regardless, but I suspect they're going to do a bunch of nothing over all of this. What this has been going, this is prototypical. I want to say neocon, but the liberals are down with it too. This has been going on forever. This type of foreign intervention and colonization, it never stops, no matter who. And this is what led me in large part to fall down a rabbit hole and get into the conspiracy theory end of things, because no matter who got in office, it just continued.
It's just
the foreign policy remained the same. The war machine, the military industrial complex, like that's the phrase that we all know here in the alt media. It just continued. I think this is a different brand of it, but it looks very similar to what came before it. You understand? How long have they been trying to make regime change in Venezuela? This is not new, and it's not just Trump. So I hear Marco Rubio has a lot to do with all of this, because he wants regime change in Cuba, and all of these dominoes align.
Just in recent years, look what we did Noriega. Look what we did to Gaddafi. Look what we did to Hussein. Saddam Hussein. We killed them. We didn't try them. We just went and killed them, and then we bragged about it. So I guess Maduro's lucky they didn't assassinate him and Trump brag about it, because that's what Obama and Hillary Clinton did about the others. They're really good at killing, So I'm surprised Trump doesn't do it.
Still time for this to happen.
Because he's got to be better at killing than Obama. Nobody's better than Trump. Come on.
Tony, what's up, buddy?
Well, it's an embarrassment. I mean, just pretty much across the board. You look at all the things that we could have done and should have done, and we've missed opportunities to bolster trade and to bolster the economic strength of the United States. What this is a dark chapter. This is heavy-handedness, and it's against all the principles that the country was founded on. So I look at the cheering of this, or whatever this means, especially in the MAGA cult or the so-called right wing, and I'm embarrassed for them. I don't even know what this is about. This is hemispheric energy domination, pure and simple. And the covert means skullduggery. The psyop means to carry it out, which is antithetical to anything that we should be standing for. And we've missed opportunities. We've missed opportunities to build infrastructure and to build relationships in South America for the last 100+ years. because we've been doing the same thing for on behalf of the corporations. And, the corporations will benefit from this, the major ones, not the small business. There'd be mega corporations and banking institutions and all the rest. And we just put that in our column, and we did it in a heavy-handed way. And I think this always has blowback, always. That's a CIA term because they invented it, because they do stupid things and it blows back. Yeah. So I think this is probably one of those instances. And I really believe that something will still come of the boat strike incident. I saw that and what went on with the Secretary of War and the firing of generals. I don't know what you think, Guard, as you're kind of shaking your head. I thought there's something still to come of that. And I don't think this is the closing chapter of whatever that was in regards to Venezuela. And this whole thing is, again, it's about fourth dimensional warfare. So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry not to bring the Breitbart talking points.
No, you're good. Go ahead, Guard. You were nodding your head.
Oh, yeah. There are a couple vectors that Tony opens up there. And one of them is this Maduro had offered. Part of I was years ago, I was writing about Venezuela and the mismanagement after they nationalized the oil there, and then they nationalized a whole bunch of other things. They nationalized the making of bread because they just everything became socialized and it really became a mess. People were crossing the border because they couldn't get enough food. There were all sorts of problems there because of the collectivist mismanagement. But the United States government had imposed a ridiculous, terrible embargo against those people, like they had done on Cuba, and that was harming the people, like they did on Iraq, like they've done on Iran. An embargo is a state of war against us. It says, hey, if you want to deal peacefully with some businesses there and start up a business doing whatever, catching fish or, dealing with coffee beans or whatever, we're going to punish you in America for doing that. So that's a threat against me. They don't want peaceful interactions. So the nationalization was a big, big issue. And so Maduro had offered, he said, hey, come on back in. Let's set up some more deals. This was a Viper strike. This was a message, not just to tell people, hey, we are going to make sure things are good for our interests. It's if you, as a person, move against any of our interests, we're going to target you and your family. It's not just about the country. We're going to go after you. So this is a threat to all the other people in Central America and South America. You as an individual politically, we can take you out. We're going to take you. That's what we're going to do. And then the other part of it that I think is, rather disturbing is, as Tony mentions, this boat strike thing. The fact that Hegseth and these others were so willing, and Stephen Miller and others were so willing to engage in this sort of criminality, this now can be held over their heads.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, yeah, exactly. Anybody who wants to actually can turn, if they're inside some administration in the future, and I don't know what the statute of limitations is on that, but they can hold this against those people. So this is a big power leverage thing. If you've got these people who are doing fist pumps when they're hitting Yemen, and these people are just engaged in a holiday celebration in Yemen, all those people who were part of that decision-making line, they can all be brought up on war crimes charges. So they're all going to be toeing the line, whatever Trump wants to do.
Dude, that's going to happen too. I think they will be brought up on war crimes at some point.
I hope they are, man.
I think they will. I mean, I don't know if it will be for the right reasons, but I think it's going to happen. Yeah. Let's see what goes down, man. 2026, man. I was hoping it was going to be a bit of an easier year. It doesn't look like it's going to be. This is just the beginning of this nonsense that's going on. We really have to keep an eye out on Iran and what's going to go down over there. And this is, again, nothing new. This is all circulating in the media that they look to move in there again and bomb in Iran again. I don't know, man. Hopefully nothing. I mean, it's hard. It's easy for me to say that as an American sitting over here comfortably, while all this stuff is going on in Venezuela and Iran and all over the world in Yemen. People are dying over there. So I'm like, maybe this is it, but that's innocent people died in Venezuela today. People aren't going to get their loved ones back. They're never going to see them again. So I don't want to sound insensitive by saying that. Like that is unacceptable. What's gone on over there, especially from us. And it's not even us. It's this government. We have nothing to do with this shit. Especially if you didn't vote for this. Nothing to do with this crap. I got nothing to do with it. And I will never have anything to do with any of this shit. You know, like I'm anti-war as anti-war can get. But we got problems moving in the future in 2026. Guard, I'm coming to you real quick. What do you think? What else do we see? He says he is the president of peace. He's brokered 8 to 10 peace deals already. We should be giving him a Nobel Peace Prize. Then he turns around and says, yeah, we're going to move into Venezuela. And now they actually struck inside Venezuela, and a regime change has taken place. You know, what do you think we got looking forward to in the future? Do you think he's going to do this to more countries?
Well, you know, there are a couple things that I'd like to mix in as I answer that, Billy Ray. You know, maybe all of us were brought up. I was just hit with a sort of an emotional pang a couple times today, and listening to you guys today, it hit me again. I was thinking about, maybe you were brought up the same way. You hear about the heroes of American history. You know, I didn't know about a guy like Smedley Butler till many, many years later, but the Revolutionary era and people like Nathan Hale and, you know, and you have these traditions and so on. And I remember being in 4th grade and thinking how great the United States was. And it gets me pretty upset. But as an adult, I try to check that and say to myself, well, you know, you've learned a lot, but to think that we are all just energy sources for their killing machine. I don't like that, man. That's really bad.
Yeah.
Don, go ahead, buddy.
Oh, I think and Jackson T. Barrett assures us that it was pinpoint surgical strikes that didn't kill any innocents there. We heard that all throughout the Gulf War, didn't we? Remember they didn't kill. They had all these video game shots, and they hit all. And then they found out later they had this ridiculous rate of they were missing constantly, so it's and how can you defend this? Come on, man. There's this, and you talked about him being Trump being brought up on war crimes trials. Well, then somebody in power would have to be against the war machine for that to happen. Yeah. Nobody is.
Well, yeah, that was the other thing. Yeah.
Go ahead. Or Don.
No, I was just going to say, Don, you absolutely, because the Dems want to be able to leverage that too anytime, right?
Yeah, they're not. I would be shocked. I mean, they may criticize him, but if they criticize him for this, it's because of his personality. They're criticizing for anything, but it's not because they're opposed to this in general. Oh, because they just are, because he's been bombed. Have you heard criticism of Yemen? Those are non-white people that he's been bombing more than anybody. I don't know why. What the hell did Yemen do? I don't understand what they've done. But you don't hear anybody criticizing that. Where are all the liberals over there who you know, persons of color are being bombed indiscriminately by the great white imperialists? What? I haven't heard that. I don't hear any criticism. Instead, it's, you know, Trump is racist or something stupid. Well, yeah, that would be racist, I guess. But you're not talking about that. This, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. And I think Jackson T. Barrett also criticized me for my Trumpenstein project. Look, it's still the Trumpenstein project. I still think the guy's an actor. I think he was put into place for whatever. This is just what they're doing now. This is the script, but he's going on. This is foreign policy as usual. The first Trump administration kind of wasn't foreign policy as usual. You know, he did bomb Syria a couple of times, but other than that, he kept paying lip service to, you know, these senseless wars. And maybe we should try peace here. Is it so wrong not to be at war with Russia? He had a lot of great quotes. None of that this time. None of that at all. Instead, it's full bore. He's acting like Teddy Roosevelt on steroids. You know, he wants to go everywhere. I'm surprised he doesn't want to lead it himself. So at this point, Peter says they killed the Venezuela. Well, yeah, I mean, didn't they do? Was it? Remember, was it under Reagan? Didn't they kill Gaddafi's little daughter?
Killed his son.
It killed his son. Yeah, and that's. But so this, and again, nobody. When Americans do it, it doesn't matter. Just imagine if they had a strike and they killed Trump family member, Obama's daughter or something. I mean, obviously we look at it just the way we looked at, even if you accept the ridiculous official narrative of 9/11, it was 3,000 some people, that we looked at that as like a greater we don't compare it to like the 39,000 toddlers that the good guys killed when they bombed Dresden in World War II. And just imagine that if somebody killed 39,000 toddlers in a strike team, I don't know how you do that. Well, you bomb a target that has no military value, I guess, to a lot of families there. But we've done so many bad things. So this is just another installment of it. I don't think it's worse than a lot of things we've done. It looks bad now because it's happening now.
Right.
And just as in the past, nobody criticized Dresden until Kurt Vonnegut wrote Slaughterhouse-Five about it because he was there.
Yeah.
And then people started saying, "Oh, I guess that probably was wrong," but they didn't apologize for it. The mad bomber from I forget Jackson or something from Britain. He said, "I'd do it again." He didn't apologize. We don't apologize. Americans don't apologize. Who said that? Was it? I think George H.W. Bush said Americans don't apologize, and they don't.
Yeah.
Certainly, Trump is trying to. So they're not going to acknowledge any mistakes. This is just the latest in a long line of our foreign policy, which is now total neocon. And we were doing these things before Israel grabbed a hold of our foreign policy in the 80s under Reagan. We did some horrible things before that, as my hidden history books show. But what's going on now is this is just the latest installment. And if we had a real opposition party, just like when the Democrats do bad things, the Republicans don't really oppose them. It's the same thing here. The Democrats are supposed to be the opposition, so the squad should be up in arms. AOC, I heard, is wanting more money for Israel. So this is not an opposition. This should be what they concentrate on, not the dumb stuff he does, like, reacting to Rob Reiner's death and all these ridiculous things he does. He just attacked the Kennedys again, by the way, when Tatiana Schlossberg died. But I don't know what RFK Jr. thinks about that. That's just cosmetic nonsense he does, and that's what he's criticized for. But I bet the New York Times will editorialize in favor of this, would be my guess. And the television network, remember what happened when he bombed Syria? He's finally acting presidential.
Yeah.
So he's really acting presidential.
That's true.
I think there'll be favorable reaction to it among most of the press that supposedly hates him.
Well, not to say that Maduro was a good dude, because the majority of the country hated him. They wanted him out. So there's a lot of happiness in Venezuela about this right now, that they wanted this guy gone. But what are you guys getting in return? I don't know, bro. I don't know what to say about this. As far as Trump goes, he has immunity for all of this shit. Trump is going to be fine as long as he stays in the United States. And I'd be shocked if anybody actually brought him up on any charges. But all the underlings, everybody else, those people, Hegseth and Miller, they got problems. They're going to be brought up on charges. I think if a Democrat takes over the White House next time around, I think there's a good chance that will happen. And let's see how that further divides the country. I don't know. What a mess.
Just put Peter Seacoch's point about it. Peter Seacoch is all over this. Yeah, Yemen was blocking weapons to the shipments to the Red Sea that were headed to Israel to kill people in Gaza.
Right.
Israel's behind. I'm telling you, look there, especially nowadays. Yeah. There's some reason.
Some reason.
Maduro was closer with Iran.
In Iran.
But Pete, I did see reports of that innocent people had died in the mainstream. So go check that and come back and see if you can double check that for me and see if you can find some of that stuff. Go ahead, Guard. What's up?
Well, I was going to say, just Peter's point there is exactly right. And right now, over the past 48 hours in Yemen, they're trying to eliminate the Houthis, who have been working to try to oppose the Israeli genocide in Gaza. And the Houthis, this is a typical gaslighting situation where the Houthis only were targeting Israeli shipments or shipments that were aiding Israel. And the United States was claiming that they were pirates. They were going after all shipments. They were blocking American shipments and all these different types of things. Utterly untrue, completely untrue. Same thing with Iran. It's like, that classic image of all the bases around Iran. It's like, how dare Iran surround themselves with all of our bases? This is just, it's totally absurd what is going on. And you guys, hitting on the fact that certain media outlets like the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or certain like Fox News, they won't stand up for the very basic standards that these people in office swear to uphold, ought to tell us something. It ought to tell us that it has been this way. It will be this way with many of these people. And there are very, very strong interests that will continue to push this. And I'll give this example. I brought this up on my show before. The now governor of New Hampshire, Kelly Ayotte, when the Ukraine stuff was a few months in, appeared on Fox News to say, Ukraine, they've got to get these weapons. You got to send these weapons to Ukraine. They got to defend against these marauding Russians. Nothing about the background of NATO expansion, nothing about the Maidan coup, nothing about Tiani Bach and the Soviet Party, the Nazis meeting with Biden on stage with McCain and Chris Murphy and Amy Klobuchar, all on stage together. Newland and Jeffrey Pye, nothing about that. Little did they tell anybody. They didn't tell anybody at the time that she was appearing. Now governor of New Hampshire, Republican GOP, starlight. She was on the board of BAE Systems, a weapons maker. And she also was on the board of Fox News. So maybe disconnecting from those message carriers, those water carriers, is a good thing. And I saw someone a little bit earlier talking with somebody about how, that Grand Moff Tarkin situation with Princess Leia, the firmer you tighten your grip, the more star systems will slip through your fingers. The more they try to crack down on our ability to get the signal out, the more we're going to find new avenues to get the signal out. They can't stop it now. And I think it was, what's his name? Cooper from with Scott Horton. They were talking about it. He was on with Tom Woods, talking about how they just can't stop the signal now. So, what you guys have been doing and what I've started to do now with, coming in a few years after you guys and so many other people are doing now is such a benefit. And we get to remind people, at least, like I say, if you can't win any political things in Washington, at least you can get out messages of the truth. Don's books are messages about the oath that they swear in the Constitution, about war crimes, about the truth about what's going on with the Houthis or Iran, Ukraine, all that stuff. At least the info's out there, right?
All right.
Yes.
All right, man. We got to see what's going on. Excuse me. Let's see how much time we got. We got about 15 minutes left. Do you guys want to talk about the Somalian situation in Minnesota to close up? Or Tony, actually, I'm going to come to you because I don't think I gave you much time here with all of this Venezuela stuff. So go ahead and wrap this up with a bow with whatever you need to say. Take as long as you want. And if we have time, we'll cover Somalia. We'll cover Minnesota. Anyway, go ahead, buddy.
I want to read just real quick. This is the headlines, and I didn't look at this before the show. I didn't have time. This is the headlines of antiwar.com. And I want to see if this is what you voted for. U.S. bombs Venezuela, claims to capture Maduro. Netanyahu joins Trump to celebrate New Year. Trump appears to threaten war with Iran. Trump bombed 7 countries in 2025. 4 ways Team Trump reminded us of Bush Cheney in 2025. So there you go. That's the front headlines on antiwar.com.
Damn.
And I think that, again, just to wrap this all up, we brought up Dresden, and we can bring up My Lai, you can bring up war crimes, you can bring up, the displacement or the breaking of a civilization by invading Iraq for weapons that it didn't have or something like that. This isn't that. I think what we all agree on is this is so unnecessary. It's so out of the character of what we're supposed to be as a nation. Why aren't we brokering deals? Why aren't we making it easier for the American people to buy groceries? Why are we not putting people back to work? Why are we not stopping wars and stopping these escalations? And why are we playing this game? Again, this is fourth dimensional war. That's all this is. This is a different kind of warfare. You're talking about Yemen, then you're talking about Israeli interest and Saudi interest. And then that has to be our interest because, the Yemenis and the Houthis, they align with Iran. So you're fighting this war and people are dying and you're bombing wedding parties or whatever the hell that we do. And it has nothing to do with the country that we're supposed to fight and love and die for if we have to. And I don't understand any of this. Again, I understand the foreign policy. It's a darkness. That's what this is. And it has nothing to do with the greatness of what we could do. As an example, we're 5% of the world's population. We house 25% of the world's prisoners. We also consume 80% of the world's cocaine. So talk about talk about why they continue to build these cartels and ship stuff up. And of course, we have to use an intelligence, and other black ops and stuff that we use.
And Tony, excuse me, but Trump also recently, if he's so concerned about drugs, he pardoned one of the biggest drug kingpins over there. How does that fit into this? The whole rationale behind this guy's is responsible for these drug cartels. He just pardoned somebody that apparently was way worse in that regard. How did they explain that?
I mean, it's not about, again, we're answering our own questions. This has nothing to do. I mean, if you look at we still haven't solved the problem of our southern border, and there's still massive amounts of human trafficking and other stuff that goes on, and just absolute horrific things that goes on in our country and terrorizing the people of that area. I have an ecological disaster, all that stuff still in place. And if you look at, I'm going to be talking about this on my shows, because I've been taking a little bit of a break and just absorbing, to not mention working in my businesses, which have been insane. But if you look at the prices of metals, you think this is markets? Like, you think $82 silver is because the Wall Street woke up? Like, this is a fourth dimensional warfare tactic. This is something like we have asymmetrical, and it has nothing to do with past, actions on market moves or anything like that. CNBC doesn't understand what they're looking at. And I think, this panel, I think we're pretty savvy to the fact that all of this stuff, and whenever you see headlines, and I don't know, like, I can't hardly, I was telling Billy off air, I can't even do it anymore. I go and look at headlines on my feed, and that's the reason they call it a feed. That's where you, like, if you go to, the feed trough and you send the cattle or the pigs in, that's where you get your feed, so you're looking at your news feed, it's feeding you, and it's so dumb. And you go look at, you think about, after the show, go and look at the mainstream, or even just, the stuff like, again, I brought up Breitbart, but that's just one of a Newsmax, any of those places, and you'll just see a cascade of nonsense. And I hope that this is at least a bit of an antidote. None of us are leading this, and none of us think this is the end of the world. It's more like it's just unnecessary.
Well, here we are. First one in 2026 is in the books, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take off. We're not going to cover Somalia. I might cover it tomorrow night if I go live. I'm not guaranteeing that I will. Maybe next week, definitely. But this week, I'm not sure if I will or won't. But there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of nonsense. The disinformation is strong. And Tony mentioned fourth generation warfare several times in this episode. And that's key. Fourth generation and fifth generation warfare. Fourth generation warfare was a term coined by William Lind. And he met with Trump in 2016 to discuss fourth generation warfare, so it's full on. It's a war. If Alex Jones was right about anything, it's a war for your mind. It sincerely and truly is. And it's never been more real than it is right now, in my opinion. All right. Guard Goldsmith, thank you for making time for us. We're going to have a lot to talk about moving forward. Tell the people where they can find you. Go ahead.
Well, I'll just mention one thing that comes to my mind, you guys, is remember when Trump said he could walk down, was it Broadway or 42nd Street, and shoot somebody and nobody would care? That's essentially what he's put into practice in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific, and what he's doing in a lot of other places.
Right.
And he is a reckless, lawless criminal like all the others. And so, at least we can learn some principles. That's a good thing. If people want to find me, the Liberty Conspiracy Show is Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock. And I was just complimenting people like Tony for getting me on that treadmill to get me going. He said, just start, man, just start. And I'll never forget those words, man. So Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. on Rumble, Liberty Conspiracy, and my Substack is the Gardner Goldsmith Substack. And every Sunday we put out the free Sunday News Assembly, which has tons of articles and video links and stuff. And then for the paid subscribers, trying to build it up with a good number of paid subscribers and give them something good. Monday through Friday, we give the news notes, which is breaking news and a lot of analysis based on, the work that I did for MRC TV and teaching political economics and stuff. And then my fiction is available over at at Amazon. You might call it the U.S. Constitution. Evidently, that's a piece of fiction now. Anyway, thanks for having me, guys. Happy New Year, by the way.
Good to see you, Guard.
Always good to see you, Guard. Hang on for a sec. Don't hang up. Fantastic, Guard. Thank you. Don Jeffries, the legendary. Tell the people where they can find you, sir.
Well, they found me on Substack. It's the only place I'm not shadow banned. Donald Jeffries at Substack.com. I protest. You can also listen to my podcast. To a lot of the people I see in the chat, I'd like to see you. And I protest sometimes. I had Susan Olson from the Brady Bunch there yesterday. Again, it's every Friday from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern. My books are all out there. And if you read Hidden History and Crimes and Cover-Ups in American Politics, 1776, 1963, and American Memory Hole, you'll discover a lot that, nothing new under the sun. We've been doing this stuff forever. We just lie about it. The average American doesn't know. We don't know our history. And if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And that's what's happening right here. And we'll see what kind of opposition this invokes. But I'm sure Cindy Sheehan and Gerald Celente will be upset about it. I don't know anybody else. Murph K. Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard should resign over it. And I don't think they will. So, it's sad. Nobody seems to want peace.
No, man. No. Nobody wants peace at any point now anymore for some reason. Just us. Tony Arterburn, the wisest of all the wolves. What's up, man? Welcome back.
Peace sells, but who's buying? To quote a great band from the 1980s, Megadeth and Dave Mustaine. My website is arterburn.gold. Please go there and find my show, subscribe, and YouTube channel at Tony Arterburn. Go find that while it's still there. We're broadcasting on that right now. I put Don's show out on my YouTube. I put Don's show as well on Fridays out on at Tony Arterburn on X. But my show, the Arterburn Radio Transmission, starting up again this coming week. I hope you will tune in. Find the Arterburn Radio Transmission and Paratruther. Give us a review. And then, of course, America Unplugged here. The America Unplugged podcast channel. If you haven't subscribed or give us a review. We got so busy, guys, here at the last quarter of 2025, all of us, and it was hard to coordinate getting the shows up right and doing all this stuff. But we're going to be doing a lot better job at this here into 2026. We got too much to cover. We're in the second half of the Great Reset decade, as I labeled it in 2020, and looks like I was unfortunately right about that. So lots to cover, and wear a helmet and a cup. It's going to get weird.
I was watching a Cameo video for Cameo from the 80s. Word up. Guard knows. Guard, I know you know. And for some reason, that guy would walk around with a cup in his music videos. I was like, that's really weird. Like, I never really noticed it, but I was like, what the hell is that? It's a cup. Okay. Fine.
It's like those guys from Clockwork Orange, like, what the heck? Hey,
stuff.
by the way, I just wanted to say this. I had this hanging out. Happy New Year, gents.
Nice.
I love that.
Fantastic.
Make it classy.
Very, very
There you
nice.
go. I need it because I have no hair. It's very cold.
It's very nice.
Thanks.
All right. My name is Billy. I want to close out by saying that everything that Trump is doing is in direct contradiction of his entire platform. He's able to wield these bullying tactics around the world based on the power and the might of the United States that was built up prior to him. He has nothing to do with this. And all he does is say the United States was done until we got here. Well, he uses the United States military to do whatever the hell he wants. And he uses the United States economic power to bully everyone around the world. Yes, we are on the decline, but that doesn't mean we're still not on top. And he's been able to use the power of the United States to essentially throw off, the balance of power around the world and economic stability and all of that. He's just using power that was there prior to him, and then he just says everything was falling apart. Everything was bad. We had nothing until I got here. But he's using everything that they had before in order to do whatever it is he wants to do, which is a total disaster. So keep that in mind when Pete Hegseth says we need to restore the warrior ethos. What a dumb motherfucker. Good Lord. All right, man. Let's get up out of here. My name is Billy. Hey, listen, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, about 90% that I'm going on. 10% that I'm not. So be there next week, definitely though. And I'm glad to have Tony back, man. It's always a pleasure to have Tony on the show. So I'm glad he's back. And Guard Goldsmith, thank you for your time. And Don held me down while you were gone, Tone. So I got to see Don a few times. So all right, everybody, stay up. Are we we're
gonna play out. You ready? Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right, burn it down. Guys. Right? Burn it down or not burn it down. We have to decide.
Of course, it's already burning.
Okay.
Let's burn,
Drone bomb it.